Hello. Just a second, guys. Okay. And here we go. Into the main hall for another cutscene. Feeling refreshed and alert, our colleagues should be wandering in soon, so I'd suggest we stay here and wait for them to join us.
Pray forgive me. I was delayed.
It's fine, Urianger. We're all here now.
Let's get down to business then, shall we? Come what may, we must prevent the Telophoroid's plans from coming to fruition. At present, I see two paths for gathering the information which may aid us in achieving that goal. The first involves an investigation into the change which has come over Sharlayan, not to mention the recent inscrutable behavior of the Forum. As most of you know, the 99 members of the Forum are elected from the general populace. This alone guarantees a plethora of opinion with regards to foreign policy. The bibliotheques, for example, are a group of conservatives which would have Sharlayan focus on recording history, while remaining entirely uninvolved in the making of it. And at the other extreme, we have advocates for proactive diplomacy and direct intervention. My grandfather Galef was one such member, as was Archon Louisois. Yet despite our diverse factions and philosophies, the recent vote to deny Eorzea's request for assistance was unanimous. Even more concerning was the fact that many cited other, more pressing duties as justification for their recalcitrance.
Fortuno's refusal in Gridania had those same undertones. 'Twas as if, having stared unblinking into the face of impending doom, he had simply turned away to pursue something more important. But what could that possibly be?
A mystery indeed, and one which I ask for your help to solve. Our future may depend on it. As for our second potential path, it concerns a request made directly to the students of Baldessian. Our organization was founded primarily to study strange and unexplained phenomena the world over. Mysterious relics and ruins, arcane disturbances, and so forth. Compared to our more isolationist Sharlayan colleagues, we have strong connections overseas, namely with scholars and academics who share our passion for the unknown. The request in question comes from one such acquaintance, Nadana, an alchemist residing in distant Thavnair. Her missive describes the sudden appearance of a tower, and the subsequent summoning of what I can only assume is a lunar primal.
Another one?
In response to this threat, the satrap of Radzat-Han, the individual who governs the city-state, has instructed the alchemists to find a means to deal with the spire.
The artisans of that land are heirs to an ancient tradition, one rather unlike that of their Uldan counterparts. 'Tis possible, nay, probable, that they have gleaned truths unattainable by Eorzea or her Far Eastern allies.
They do, in fact, appear to have a strategy in mind, though it will require further research. To that end, they have requested an introduction to a capable warrior shielded by the blessing of light.
Assuming we divide our forces to pursue both of Kral's lines of inquiry, then having you join the group heading to Thavnair would seem the obvious choice.
Okay.
But the investigation in Sharlayan is of vital importance as well. Equal, I think, to the Thavnairian one, given that the fate of the world may hinge on the results of both.
Yes, it is quite the quandary. Though it is a great imposition and an altogether too common one, our efforts would be more likely to succeed were you to lead the charge on both fronts.
How can I be in two places at once, though? Like, that
You
don't
are
make
indeed
any
our
sense.
champion. As to which task to tackle first, we will defer to your decision.
Oh, okay.
Let us next decide how everyone else might best be assigned. As for myself, I shall continue what I've begun in Sharlayan. I should also like to steal the services of an Archon or two.
And thereby gain access to a greater range of reading material. I will help with that.
Allow me to offer my assistance. I have some small amount of experience in the field of research.
Alize and I would also like to help, if you would have us.
Anything to understand even a fraction of what our father and the Forum might be thinking.
Of course! The more the merrier.
Right. The rest of us will make the journey to Thavner. Thoughts? Objections?
I passed through Thavner on my way to infiltrate the Empire, and though I'm not qualified to give a guided tour, I did gain a sense of where things lie.
I'll be happy to have you along then. So for this group, it will be you, me, and Urianger.
Give me a moment afterwards, and I'll supply you with all the details of Nadana's request. Consider this hall our rendezvous point once our respective tasks are complete. May our investigations prove fruitful.
May they indeed. Ooh. If I had to compare the two, I mean, I do kind of really like the look of that. I gotta wait until I get the leg pieces for it or whatever, but okay. An unsettling change has come over Sharlayan, but together we will divine the underlying cause for the Forum's callousness. As I mentioned before, however, questioning the counselors directly is a fruitless endeavor. They seem to have already come to a consensus as to what and how little they are willing to divulge, which is why I began scouring Sharlayan's archive of historical records for any hint of a connection to the final days. Suffice it to say that progress has been slow. There are only so many dusty pages one can skim in a day, but now that I have this band of willing reinforcements, the search should proceed all the swifter. Let us reconvene outside Nomenon, shall we? Exit the annex to the right, and you'll find the archives on the western edge of the woods. I have Kryle's instructions in hand. If you're ready to set out, then so are we. Having been to Thavner before, I can travel by Aetherite. But what of the rest of you? Another sea voyage would waste time we do not have. Kryle was of the same mind and has already secured the aid of the good folk of the Confluence. We'll take ourselves there. The Confluence, thou sayest? I'm afraid so, my friend. Thou wilt recall the hunt for Iceheart unto whose sanctuary we delivered thee, owing to the knowledge of our comrade Moenbrita. Moenbrita was an authority on aetherology, a field of study she did embark upon in pursuit of her parents' example. Both are authorities in their own right, and both are researchers at the confluence. Haven't you gone to see them yet? I attempted to do so earlier, but to my shame, my courage failed me at the last, as it hath the many times I thought to reach out to them after sending that fateful letter. Neither time nor introspection have revealed unto me the words I should speak, and thus have I kept my silence. Whether you come with us or no is your choice and yours alone. If it's too difficult, we'll manage. Thou art kind to say so, but I have no intention of forsaking our cause. I shall go to the confluence, and I shall face that which hath long been overdue. If it's settled, then let us be off. When we arrive, we should look for a researcher named Keat. Ooh, I haven't gotten to the studium yet. I think it's the only one I haven't done. Now have access to the studium. Attune yourself to all the Aether shards. Okay, that's what I thought. Oh hey, it's Cryo. Well, hello, little lady. My directions were easy enough to follow, I hope. In any case, you stand now before the doors of Numenon, Charlene's greatest collection of books and tomes. This building is actually only an entrance, and one of many at that, for the archives of Namunan extend deep beneath the surface like the roots of a tree. The vast halls of the great Gubal library pale in comparison to the Numenon's endless maze of subterranean chambers. Any citizen of Charlene is free to enter and pursue its shelves, well, most of its shelves. Only Archons are afforded access to certain restricted vaults. I've dispatched Yastola and Raha to investigate those. Meanwhile, Alice and Alphina will help me continue my search through the stacks open to the general public. Your status presents more of a problem. As a non-citizen, you are only permitted to browse the first floor here at the entrance. Even so, there should be a number of books which touch upon the Charlean history of foreign policy. Your task will be to find and study the relevant publications. I promise you a working knowledge of these subjects will make it far easier to spot the sort of clues we're looking for. Let us be about it, shall we? I told the others to meet us at the stone benches over there once they found some promising tomes. Happy reading. Oh, like over there? Okay. This place is huge, dude. Jesus. Wow. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors. And who knows, like, how far back those floors actually go. Archon Neonkref founder of Charlian, bore witness to the madness and savagery of men brought to the brink of despair. Upon raising a settlement on an island in the northern empty, he instructed his people thus: renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason. The Charlians took to heart the words of their savior, and thenceforth served as stewards of wisdom. Upon a foundation of accumulated learning, they built a homeland unlike any other, a nation born from strength of mind rather than strength of arms. With knowledge of economics came shrewd trading. With knowledge of agriculture came bountiful crops. Engineering brought wells and sewers, ending squabbles over water. Wealth of expertise could be bartered for wealth and coin. And the more their wisdom spread throughout the world, the more mankind as a whole would thrive. And so it was that no matter the trials and tribulations of the age, the citizens of Charlian would live by their founders' teachings. For the sake of a better tomorrow, for the sake of a brighter star, they would eschew the tools of war, and with knowledge deliver the world. In the years which followed the founding of Charlian, civic policy and other matters of import were decided at the Aslesia, a public forum at which every citizen was eligible to speak. As the city's population grew, however, this format became increasingly impractical. The large number of participants gave rise to ever longer debates, resulting in significant delays of vital resolutions. Various measures were introduced in an attempt to curtail protracted discussions, but in the year 201 of the 6th Astral Era, it was ultimately decreed that Charlian would transition to a new form of governance. The nation would now be led by a body of 99 members, citizens chosen from amongst their peers by means of a nationwide vote. Thus was the Forum as we know it today conceived and created. Long, long ago, on an island in the northern sea, there lived a Rogadan man by the name of Neunkref. Neunkref was a student of astrology, and he divined that a flood of terrifying proportions would soon sweep over the lands of Eorzea. So it was that he built a gigantic ship, assembled a crew, and set sail for that imperiled realm. The flood arrived as foretold, and to their horror, the strangely churning waters drove the people towards the ocean. It was there, however, that Neunkref's crew hauled them aboard his ark, but the danger had not passed. A towering wave approached, threatening to smash the vessel to pieces. With only moments to spare, Neunkref wove a mighty spell of teleportation and shifted the entire ship to safety atop Abalathia's spine. Refugees from the surrounding regions huddled there alongside them, but it was not long before disputes over the dwindling supply of food led to violence and bloodshed. Saddened by the sight, Neunkref gathered to him his crew and his grateful passengers, and abandoned the ark to those reddened peaks. They journeyed to the coast, where they built a new ship, intent upon returning to the northern sea. They landed on the beach of an island and settled upon that very spot. The settlement prospered and grew, and in time it became the city of Charlian we live in to this day. Gain the fundamental understanding of Charlian history and the foundation of the Forum. Head outside of the rendezvous point and await for your companions. You got it, buddy boy. And jump! Waiting for everybody to show up. Sorry, were you waiting long? I wanted to make sure I'd borrowed at least a few promising volumes. Alphino and Cryo should be along shortly. I was delayed in similar fashion. As far as I could see, no titles in the Archon stacks mention the final day specifically, so we have no choice but to start with the tangentially relevant tomes, if they are even that. At present, the plan is to skim through as quickly as we dare and share our discoveries as we make them. It would have been nice to invite everyone at the estate, plenty of comfortable places to read, and a ready supply of hot tea. Oh, I was always quite fond of reading outside. But it's not about the little pleasures, is it? You miss your home. It's been difficult. After our arrival, we managed to speak with one of the family servants and ask how things were. It seems our dear father has instructed the staff that even if Alphino and I were to return to Charlian, we were not to be allowed to cross the threshold. That's so messed up. A harsh measure indeed. I hope that our efforts to understand his position and that of the Forum will perhaps lead to reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day, I'm certain of it. And what of you, Graha? Have you been to visit your family? Or do they not live here in the city? Ah, well, my situation is also somewhat complicated. I was raised in Charlian, yes, but I was born rather further away. In the southern reaches of Ilsabard, in fact. For generations, my people have dwelt in Corvos, the coastal region opposite the island of Thavnir. The Allegans founded a city in that fertile land and by ship brought in the subjugated tribes of the Mikote to serve as laborers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the Fourth Umbral Calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign, and when the Fifth Calamity froze the seas solid, many of the tribes still living in the Corvos braved the journey back to Eorzea. My ancestors, however, chose to remain, that they might prevent the remnants of Allegan technology from being misused. Isn't Corvos under Garlean rule? For the past 50 years, yes. Some semblance of local culture remains, as is the case for most imperial provinces, but Garlemald renamed the region Locus Amoenus. When I was a boy, a nearby town came under the jurisdiction of the illustrious imperial family, the nobles of House Darnus. House Darnus demonstrated a singular interest in Allegan civilization, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. For some time already, voices had been raised in favor of abandoning our ancient customs. After all, the Allegan Eye no longer passed to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Fear of discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties to the knowledge and traditions of Alleg. As the last child born with the Allegan Eye, I was given over to the custody of friends in the students of Baldesion who had me registered as a Charlian citizen. I never even considered. Forgive me, it was an unkind question. Even Thancred was taken in by Archon Louis Sois, was he not? Stories of adopted waifs and rescued orphans are more common among Charlians than you might think. Yet regardless of our origins, we are all provided with an equal opportunity to learn, and with sufficient perspicacity. Wow, what a word. Perspicacity. We outsiders can even earn the vaunted title of Archon. This is exactly why I have such love for this country, and why I wish it to remain a nation of which its citizens can be proud. Here, another good reason to get to the bottom of the Forum's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while we try to make some headway into these books, Psychotic. More company should be arriving any moment. We've returned with our selections. Although I must say the pickings were quite slim indeed. Mistress Cryle had already flicked through every history book devoted to disasters, and more than a few which barely made mention of them. As such, we will be looking into research papers on the Umbral calamities as well as articles written by prominent forum members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days comes from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, might I ask you a few questions related to the final days? I'm the only one here who didn't witness the events of Amarat firsthand, and fear I may be overlooking critical details. Count on me, Chicky Poo. My thanks. Now, where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomena did the ancients encounter as the final days grew nigh? I believe it was this one. Yes, the unfolding catastrophe wrought havoc in all manner of life. The chaos extended to the ancients themselves, causing their powers of creation to spiral out of control. Fear and despair manifested in horrible, tangible fashion. Meteors raining from the sky, fire erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the streets. That more or less aligns with my understanding. If only the arts of creation had survived until the present day, we might have had something substantial to analyze. To the best of our knowledge, however, these techniques were not preserved or passed on. Y'shtola surmises that the closest known magic is that of the summoning rituals promulgated by the Ascians. Was there aught else of note which heralded the approach of the final days? Ah, yes. The Amoritines spoke of it, didn't they? We never did hear this sound ourselves, of course, thrust as we were into the midst of the madness. But it seems that each and every one of the catastrophes was preceded by this ominous noise. Eventually, it resounded all across the star, and not even Amarat was spared. So the ground was crying out, you say? To be considered the harbinger of doom, it must have been quite distinctive and probably quite loud. I'll have to speak with one of the Nomenon's mammoths and ask after any books which make mention of such a sound. Last but not least, would you describe how the ancients sought to quell this unprecedented calamity? What definitive action did they take? Is it Zodiac? A Zodiarch? It's gotta be Zodiarch. Yes, with Elidibus serving as his heart. So many gave themselves in sacrifice to bring him into being. We do not know exactly how Zodiarch brought salvation to the star, only that by his godlike will were the laws of nature set aright. Then, once the balance was redressed, the ancients offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Life sprouted anew, and it was these fledgling souls they intended to render unto Zodiarch, a trade that would have allowed them to resurrect the shades of loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have, had Venat and her followers not manifested their opposition in the form of Hydaelyn. Thank you, both of you, for the detailed review. I feel much more confident now in my understanding of the events. With all that freshly in mind, it does make me wonder what the Telophoroi truly mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. We've seen what they're doing with those towers of theirs. It's forcing people to summon primals, a key of the catalyst. Are they attempting to mirror the conditions caused by unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech, a convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash? But this is all just pointless conjecture at this point. Let us return to our attention to the forum, shall we? We should keep an eye out for Y'shtola, but 'tis time we began studying these research papers. I'm the last, am I? Well, my extended search of the Archon stacks produced one or two possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. If you recall, Urianger learned of the source's reflections from the Garoon oracles. For its potential to cause panic and confusion, that tome was deemed apocrypha and sealed away in the Great Gooball Library. 'Tis even less likely that the knowledge of the unsundered world, not to mention the horrors of the final days, would be left sitting on a shelf for any curious scholar to find. It stand to reason, then, that my colleagues, be they archons or counselors, should perforce be largely ignorant of the subject. Yet when you confronted Master Fortuno with knowledge of the Telophoroi and their machinations, he scoffed at the suggestion that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant that the Forum would know if the final days were truly upon us, which only supports the conclusion that whatever privileged wisdom is guiding the Forum's behavior, it is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not that I mean to excuse myself from reading duty. Whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. You weren't thinking of leaving, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. You labor for what feels like an age as you show as a research assistant. Oh dear, you look exhausted. But what about your studies? Were you able to find any books on the subjects I mentioned? Then the day was well spent. Should you wish to read them again, a man at the reference desk will point you in the right direction. For the moment, though, I suggest you take a well-deserved rest. We might be occupied with our research for quite some time. Ready for a tea break, Psychotic? I know I am. Honestly, my neck and shoulders are going to calcify if I don't stretch my legs and walk around for a bit. You know the last stand down in the arbor, don't you? Come and meet me near the outside tables and I'll treat you to their coffee. It's quite good. I didn't even think about that. I could have just teleported over here from the other spot. As busy as ever, I see. How very Charlian that no other gourmet cafe has sprung up to compete for customers. Actually, this crowd gives me an idea. Before we place an order, why don't we ask a few questions and gauge the mood of the city? I'm interested to hear what the average citizen has to say about the Telophoroi. We might even learn something new. Worth a try, don't you think? What is it? Can a man not enjoy a moment of private respite? If you're looking to share a table, then I respectfully request that you look elsewhere. You misunderstand, sir. We were simply wondering if you knew of the Telophoroi. These enemies of peace have promised to end to all we hold dear, and... Wait, you're that House Levier girl, aren't you? And this man with you is obviously a foreigner. I'd heard you were disowned for helping outsiders indulge their barbaric whims, and here you are giving truth to the rumor. I'll thank you to leave me be. I've naught to say to the likes of you. Well, I must apologize. 'Twas foolish of me to expect an ounce of civility from one so enlightened. Come, psychotic. Yeah, what a dick. Punch you in the face, bro. Yes, I don't believe I've had the pleasure. Pray, excuse the interruption, but we were hoping you might share your thoughts on the Talaferoi and their unconscionable plans. My goodness, if it isn't young Miss Leveilleur. My apologies, but I work in the offices of the Forum, and if word reached Master Fortuno that I was helping you... I see. We're sorry to have bothered you. Welcome, sir. What can I offer you today? Wait, is that Mistress Alice I see there? My word, how long has it been? Far too long. Meet Dickon. Or Deacon. The owner of The Last Stand. I used to frequent his cafe on occasion and in between lessons at the studium. That seems like an age ago now. I remember hearing that you and Master Elfino had set sail for Eorzea, but then you never came back. Lately, there's been gossip about your father disowning the pair of you. Everything is alright at home? It's complicated, and I hadn't expected complete strangers to be so familiar with our situation quite so quickly. Everyone has an opinion, it seems. Well, it is House Leveilleur. No matter how discreet Master Fortuno may have been, news of your family's doings never stays secret for long. Things being what they are, what brings you back to the city now of all times? We have questions and only Charlian has the answers. Tell me, Master Dickon. Have you heard anything about an apocalypse called the Final Days? What, like the end of the world? Nothing like that, I'm afraid. And that's what you're here to find? Information on this apocalypse? Yes, whatever we can learn. Unfortunately, your patrons appear to be unwilling to speak with me. I wish there was more I could do to help. Maybe there is. You're a visitor to Charlian, aren't you? Then few will know your face. We should be able to pass you off as a server, but none the wiser. We just finished preparing a few orders. Strike up some friendly conversation while you're setting down the food, and you might just get an answer. Might just get the answers you're looking for. Not a bad idea. I hate to ask, but what do you think? That's the spirit. Pay attention now and I'll explain where each of these dishes needs to go. The tea set is for the chatty group sitting by the water's edge. The omelet is for one of our regulars, a Highlander by the name of Gisla. She's sitting at an outside table with a friend of hers. Behind them you should see a Mikote gentleman. He ordered an oven-baked lobster. Got all that? If you're not sure, just ask and I'll explain again. Good luck. Oh, my tea set. Lovely, thank you. The Talafa who? I'm sorry, I've never heard of them or their final days. My friends and I are somewhat uninformed when it comes to current events. Now, if you wanted to hear about ritual arcane practices of the 6th Astral Era, common or esoteric, then I'd be happy to talk your ear off. Yeah, no thank you.
No, thank you.
Isla with the omelet. Ah, finally. 2468. Let's dig in, no time to waste. What, the Talaferoi? Ah, yes, I remember seeing the name in the latest Gazette. That and some grand claim about the end of days. Same old senseless warmongering. When will these fools grow tired of spilling each other's blood? Best stay out of it, I say. The Forum made the right choice and I fully support our decision to remain neutral. Yeah, fuck you. At last, the oven-baked lobster is mine. You have no idea how long I've scrimped and saved and suffered to afford this heavenly dish. The final days, this is the first I've heard of it. Although that would explain why my friend has been rushed off his feet. It must be a busy time to be a gleaner. You don't know what a gleaner is? They're collectors of a sort. Travel the world procuring things that we haven't got here in Charlotte, priceless books, unusual live specimens, and so forth. So named for those folk who trail after the reapers in the fields, picking up every grain which was missed. Aye, by all accounts, gleaning is the most meticulous and demanding profession. If these Tlaferoi made good on their audacious threats, then many uncatalogued rarities could be lost forever. Why else would the gleaners be buzzing about in such a frenzy? Watch the harbor and you'll see what I mean. They're carting loads in from the docks all day. It's never been this hectic before, not like this. Any trouble with the customers? Were you able to get anyone talking? Not really, but kind of. Interesting. They seem unaware of the final days, aside from whatever vague news the gazettes are printing. Even Dickon had nothing to offer, and he's the best source of gossip in the city. If the Forum does have secret knowledge, then they've done an impressive job of ensuring no one whispers in the wrong ear. In any case, thank you for playing the part so well. Here, that cup of coffee I promised. But let's enjoy our drink somewhere else, shall we? Maybe behind the peristyle? Away from the gossips and their wagging tongues. Yes, this should do nicely. Out of the wind and out of sight.
When our father disowned us, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It wasn't until much later that his words began to sink in, that I began to feel the weight of what it meant. Do you remember when the decision was made to come to Charlian? Graham said that the Forum was determined to keep us in the dark, and that Father's venomous performance was part of that strategy, to keep us at arm's length. Perhaps it was. Father argued with Grandfather on many occasions, but never with such dismissive contempt. And when he demanded what justifies the sacrifices we make in war, I honestly didn't know what to say. Neither did Alpha know, I know, but never for one moment did I believe we had made the wrong choice. So all I could do was fume silently. It was only afterwards that I realized how childish I had been, how being stubborn and self-righteous must run in the family. If I could have just mustered a civil response, then things might have turned out differently. They must be ferrying goods to Labyrinthos. A vast complex beneath the island. Charlian is famous for archiving knowledge from around the world. Well, that knowledge is not preserved exclusively in dusty tomes and desiccated samples. Our living library, comprised of all manner of flora and fauna, is housed and studied within that underground facility. Still, that did seem to be an unusually large shipment. When I lived here, it was rare to even see such cargo transported by boat. Wait! Didn't you hear something in the last stand about the gleaners coming and going more than usual? Well, I think they're the ones we saw manning those boats. And gleaners answer to the Forum. If the appearance of the Telophoroi prompted this sudden burst of activity, then Labyrinthos may hold a clue as to what the Forum is planning.
Yeah, it could be. Very well could be, man. It's only a 500,000 XP, like, ain't no big deal. Look at that, 448,800. We should tell the others what we've learned about the Gleaners. Go on ahead to Nomenon, and I'll join you in a moment. Master Dickon will want his cups back. Be right back. Go use the bathroom real fast. Sorry about that, guys. Went to use the bathroom, got stuck in a conversation with my wife about the vacation trip we're getting ready to take in a couple weeks. So it's gone longer than I expected to be. Welcome back, Psychotic. Thank you. Been for a walk and cleared your head, have you? Not exactly. We did some impromptu investigating and turned up information on the Gleaners. It makes sense. The Gleaners take the request directly from the institution and bureaucrats, but as you say, they ultimately answer to the Forum. A sudden and significant increase in Gleaner traffic and in cargo certainly gives the impression of an overarching plan being put into motion. Let us see what theory we can build from the facts. As Y'shtola observed earlier, Nomenon's archives appear to contain no information concerning the final days. Coupled with what Psychotic and Elise learned at the last stand, we can be reasonably sure that most Sharlayans know nothing of that particular period of ancient history. Yet my father and his colleagues are not only familiar with the final days, but are also somehow certain that the destruction being perpetrated by the Talaferoi is wholly unlike these apocalyptic events. Moreover, the Forum claims to be so occupied by a duty of such pressing importance that they saw fit to unanimously deny Eorzea's request for aid. And now the Gleaners, official agents of the state, have been mobilized on an unprecedented scale. I do not think it a stretch to conclude that the Gleaners' recent activities are in service to the Forum's secretive ends. In which case, our next course of action seems obvious. We visit Labyrinthos and assess the situation for ourselves, and if we're lucky, the Gleaners will be far more receptive to our questions. I'm glad you approve. You won't be disappointed, I promise. As for myself, there are a few more subjects I should like to research. I may join you later, but feel free to leave behind your borrowed books and be on your way. I'll see to it that each is returned to its proper place. That would be a great help. Thank you, Raha. Let's head down the stairs over there and I'll show you where the entrance is. Ready? Labyrinthos is not too far from here, but you may find the path a bit disorienting. I'll take the lead, so stay close. Here we are, through this door and down the stairs. You did remember to attune to the shard back there, didn't you? It'll make your life much easier if you need to come back in a hurry. Otherwise, we should keep moving. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're all here now, yes? I've taken the liberty of securing permission for our group's descent. Right, everyone onto the lift and down we go.
Deep beneath the scholar's city shines a false sun within a fabricated sky. In any age exist those who consider the floor an extension of their bookshelves, and this vault's architects surely belonged to that special breed. If the stack grows too high, start a new one. If no room remains, then make more rooms. A simple solution at first, and then bit by bit, a profound transformation. Knowledge buried beneath knowledge, a growing, creeping labyrinth from which there is no escape.
Labyrinthos, the Northern Empty.
Not what you expected. I must admit, the artifice is very convincing. But I assure you that we are beneath Sharlayan itself. The breeze you feel, the flowing waters you hear, all created by the hand of man.
The island is volcanic, you see, and once upon a time this great hollow must have been a reservoir for magma. It was discovered some 400 years ago, at which point it was repurposed as a storage facility for scrolls and samples and such. Renovations have continued, with nigh on no interruption to this day, with the lower levels still undergoing expansion.
Aren't those people gleaners?
Aye, judging by their dress. They are said to work alone as a rule, but 'twould seem that rule is being enthusiastically broken today. It may be as you suspected, that they are engaged in a task apart from the norm.
Let's spread out and get some answers then.
Ugh.
Okay, Kyle? What the hell is that about?
Did you call to me just now? No. How odd. I must be a bit dizzy from the descent. I'll be fine, I'm sure. Let's get to work, shall we?
No bueno. Oh shit, this is like a whole ass area. And I can use my mount down here. Nice. Oh, there are pieces here. It feels so weird to be on my mount and, like, be moving so slow. You know what I mean? Oh, I bet you it's behind this building. Oh no, it's way up there. Oh shit, there's actual level 80 monsters here that will fight me? No shit. It's been a long while since I've had enemies get hostile towards me like that. I'm gonna have to kill him to get to this thing. Go back to the city for now. You here to help or give me more headaches? Because I don't have the look of a gleaner and I'm in no mood for idle chatter. One of my colleagues was so exhausted he took a tumble and crashed into a pile of crates. Now I have a pack of marmots running loose. Let me think. The reseed should be in item 1058, cumin and seeds 1059, snurbleberry 1060, or were they 1061? Ah, my head feels like it's stuffed with moko grass. Why more loads to take in than take out than carry in? Why do all this at once and risk mixing it up? What if someone mistakes the Kurthan carrots for the Girabanian carrots? What then? You want to know what I'm doing? Hauling books and ore and fauna. If it needs hauling, I haul it. Every decade or so, they take stock in labyrinthos. You know, sort and tidy up the inventory. Never seen an operation like this before, though. They just did one a few summers ago, even. Then, with no warning at all, this mess gets dropped in our laps. Orders from on high. Damned if I know the reason. Could be that they're changing the layout, eh? Preparing for the next big expansion. Woo! 360. Any luck, Psychotic? What tales did the Gleaners have to tell? So this grand operation began without warning? And for every item they bring in, they're sending more inventory somewhere else? That would explain the haggard faces I've been seeing. We were right, the Forum is definitely up to something, and they're turning Labyrinthos upside down in the process. We would do well to learn more of what specifically the Gleaners are being tasked to do, as well as who tasked them to do it. If you're game, Psychotic, I have an idea. Didn't one of the Gleaners you questioned say something about escaped marmots? Perhaps if you were to help him capture said creatures, he might be inclined towards a more friendly and enlightening conversation. In the meantime, I will turn my charms upon this Gleaner here. We can compare notes afterwards. Happy hunting. Jesus, dude. This area is huge. Okay, but how do I get down to said area? Does the lift attendant also bring you farther down? No, I want to go farther down, but I don't know how. This area is huge though, dude. Okay. You wish to help me find the marmots? I have nothing suitable to pay you for your services, but if you're offering out of the goodness of your heart, I'd welcome the assistance. The name is Aaronville, friend, specialist in the collection of live specimens. That said, the capture of these Naxian marmots is a trial I've no desire to repeat. Grizzled mice, they call them. For a mercy, there are no other marmot species on this tier at present, so there should be no mistaking our little fugitives. If you happen to catch any, stuff them in this sack gently, of course. Where to begin, you wonder? I've not seen any scampering around here, so we'll need to widen our search into the surrounding forest. Be on your guard, there are beasts out there that won't hesitate to prey on the marmot or you. I'll search the trees to the west and eastern part of the forest is all yours. Good luck. Okay. Let's try and see if we can't help this guy find his little creature.